Few men or women have had such a positive influence on aviation as has Ian Herman Grabowsky. Most of you will say, who was he? Ian Herman Grabowsky was born circa 1896 in Finland of Scottish and Irish parents, themselves descended from Polish forebears. He earned the nickname Grab. As a boy, Ian travelled widely with his father when his father was on business, before Ian took up an engineering apprenticeship in Glasgow. Aged 18 in World War I, he enlisted in the Royal Naval Air Service, then transferred to the R.A.F. as captain and flight instructor. After the war, he emigrated to Australia and tried sleeper cutting, shearing and work on farms before moving to sell cars. He said that working on the farms in the hot Australian sun was too hard. He helped set up the de Havilland Aircraft Company as their sales manager and chief instructor before moving to New Guinea to pilot 3-engine Junkers freighters for Guinea Airways, later becoming general manager. He set records for the number of trips and weight of freight carried. His flying career stopped in 1934 when he had a leg amputated due to a tropical illness. He had flown 4,000 hours in 75 types of aircraft to that point. His next move was to join Airlines of Australia as North Queensland manager, and when it was absorbed into ANA in 1937, he became its Brisbane manager. In World War II, he was appointed manager to build up the servicing department of the Aircraft Production Commission to repair and overhaul Australian and American aircraft. In 1949, it was Ian, working for ANA, who helped set up the Kimberley Airbeef scheme initiated by the three Fliers brothers. That scheme operated until 1965 to process and transport beef and hides to market by air, but now it was the cattle trains using newly built roads to the Derby Meat Company who took over. The Derby Meat Company, or Demco, was later bought by pastoralist Jack Fletcher. We have covered Jack Fletcher's story, and that in itself is worth a listen. Grab negotiated the entry of ANA into Cathay Pacific Airways and Air Ceylon. Once, during long and difficult negotiations, Ian heard that Jock Swire, who he was having trouble with, rather fancied Australian oysters. Ian had 24 flown in, and that brought the negotiations to a successful conclusion. Cathay Pacific was valued at £175,000 on merger and made £200,000 in the first year. ANA now owned 35% of that. Ivan Hollyman and Ian Grabowsky were elected to the board. ANA's share today would be worth US $2 billion. Swire said, "The air business is certainly terrifying, and they talk the most fantastic figures. ANA are really good people, and Grab thinks straight, but is very ambitious and is a go-getter." His remarks about the London financiers was that they were ultra cautious. I don't think that was said as a compliment. It was Grab who changed Cathay's practice of paying pilots a base salary plus pay per hour flown. That led to pilot fatigue, and some were flying 170 hours a month. Ian joined TAA in 1957 as Special Projects Officer and retired in 1961, although remaining as consultant for another 4 years. He was then commissioned by the Australian Department of Civil Aviation to research the pre-war history of aviation in New Guinea. He produced 1,671 pages of history, covering up to 1935, until his ill health stopped him in 1969. That book was completed by James Sinclair and became the book Wings of Gold, How the Aeroplane Developed New Guinea. Ian Grabowsky died in 1972 in Victoria. Truly a remarkable man.